Hi guys, you're going to do lesson 8.4, which is still common fractions. More specifically, it's finding a fraction of a whole pictorially. What that means is finding a fraction of a whole number, but being able to draw a picture or being able to represent what you know. So your target and success criteria, your target is I can use a visual representation or drawing to multiply a whole number by a fraction. Your success criteria. I can represent the multiplication of a whole number and a fraction using a rectangular array or area model. You guys know what this is. It's been a while since we've used it, but an area model is where we would say, okay, what's 3 times 2? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to have our whole, and then we're going to multiply it, or I'm sorry, we're going to show how we're going to multiply 3 by 2 by breaking it up into 2 on one section, and then over here we're going to break it up into 3. And then when I count the number inside, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 times 3 equals 6. So it's been a while since we've done that, but it should come back to you fairly easily. I can explain that multiplying a whole number by a fraction is the same as taking a number or portion of that number. So kind of what we've been talking about in the past, when I say 1/4 of 15, I'm really talking about if I take 15, I know I didn't choose numbers that were easily divided, but if I take 15 and divide it into 4 different groups, that's basically what it's saying. Okay, so our first problem is 1/3 of 12. So I'll go ahead and write that on the board. 1/3 of 12. Now they give us 2 ways to think about this. You can either think of it in terms of division, like the first problem that you see right here, the 12 divided by 3 equals 4, or you can think about it as multiplication. Okay, so this is kind of the 2 things we've been working on so far. So if I'm wanting to find 1/3 of 12, I'm basically saying, okay, if I have 12 different marbles and I put them into groups of 3, how many would be in each group? Okay, that's 12 divided by 3. That's 4. We know that answer. Okay, or I can think about it in terms of multiplication and get the same answer. So if I do 1/3 of 12 and I want to multiply 1/3 times 12, well, I'm going to put 1/3, change the to a multiplication sign, and now I'll have 12/1. Okay, 1 times 12 is 12, 3 times 1 is 3. Now you notice that's an improper fraction, so you need to switch that around. How many times does 3 go into 12 without going over? 4. So you can see we got the exact same answer using both multiplication and division. Okay, now I've got 2 different story problems. We're going to do the first one together, and then the second one I'm going to have you try on your own. But stay with me because these story problems have a lot of steps. The first one, an orchard has 5 rows of 6 trees. In this orchard, 2/5 of the trees are orange trees. The rest are apple trees. What is the difference between the number of apple trees and the number of orange trees? It's kind of a lot to take in, but the first thing you're going to want to do is figure out how many trees are there total. So it says an orchard has 5 rows of 6 trees. Now this is where the area model comes in or the array. So 5 rows of 6 trees. You can either draw a picture, or some of you might already know, that just means multiplication. Okay? So 5 rows of 6 trees. So if you have 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in each row there are 6 trees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to notice if I were to count those up, I'm going to have 30 trees total. Okay, I'm going to need that number to solve the rest of the problems going forward. So now I know there are 30 trees total. Okay, 2/5 of the trees are orange trees. The rest are apple trees. So now I need to figure out, okay, what's 2/5 of 30? Okay, so you can either think of this as multiplication or division. Okay. For this instance, because I notice it's not a unit fraction and there's a 2 as a numerator, I'm going to go ahead and do multiplication because that's what's easier for me. So I've got 2/5 of 30, and I can change that 2/5 into, that of into multiplication. So I've got 30 over 1. Okay, 2 times 30 is 60. 5 times 1 is 5. So you're going to notice I have an improper fraction here. I need to fix that. So I need to see how many times does 5 go into 60 without going over. Well, if you need to work that out, that's no big deal. Just go ahead and do so. 5 goes into 6 one time. 5 goes into 10 2 times. 12. Okay, so my answer for the first part, where I had to find 2/5 of 30, we decided that was 12. Okay, so that means 2/5 of the trees are orange trees, or 12 of the trees are orange trees. So 12 orange trees. We're not quite done, because now we need to figure out how many are apple trees. Well, we decided earlier that we have 30 trees total. So 30 minus the number of orange trees will give us how many apple trees there are. Well, 0 minus 2, I can't do that. I need to borrow from the tens. This becomes a 2. This becomes a 10. 8. 2 minus 1. So I've got 18 apple trees. Okay, now the very final part of the story problem is, what is the difference between the number of apple trees and the number of orange trees? So I notice 18 minus 12, I can do that in my head, or you can count up if you need to, is 6. So your final answer for the story problem is 6. Okay, so now you guys can go ahead and try this story problem on your own. It's similar to the first one, where it's going to have a lot of steps, but you guys can do it if you slow down and think about what the story problem's asking you to do. I recommend that you try multiplying your fraction instead of the division strategy. I think that will help you. And then when you're done, go ahead and record your answer on the weekly lesson slide. Here's what you guys will see when you go to do your homework in your journal. You have story problems that are going to require you to circle the fraction amount of the whole number, and that's going to be a little tricky, so let me walk you through it. It says there are 18 cars in a parking lot. 5/6 of the cars belong to customers, or the rest of the cars belong to staff. How many cars belong to customers? Deanna solves the problem like this. Okay, so she says 1/6 of 18 is 3. Okay, I'm wondering how she got that. So if you stop and think about it, 1/6 of 18 is 3. She's right about that, but why is she breaking it up into 1/6? I think what she's doing is, if she's trying to find 5/6 of 18, she doesn't know what that is, but she probably knows what 1/6 of 18 is in her head, because she knows 18 divided by 6 is 3. Okay, and it even says that right here. She says 18 divided by 6 is 3. So she knows 1/6 of 18 is 3. Okay, so if 1/6 is equal to 3, then how much is 5/6 equal to? Well, I would need to add that, or multiply that by 5. Okay, what's 3 times 5? 15. So 3 times 5 equals 15. So 5/6 of 18 is actually equal to 15. So the question was, 5/6 of the cars belong to customers. How many of the cars belong to customers in the lot? Well, 15 of them did. Okay, does that make sense? So what she did is she thought, okay, it was too hard for me to think of 5/6 of 18. So what I'm going to do instead is, I know what 1/6 of 18 is, and I'm going to use that to my advantage, and then figure out what 1/6 is, and then multiply it by 5. Okay, so I'll kind of show you one more time with the first step up problem. Here you've got 3/5 of 10. Okay, so off the top of my head, I may not know, oh, I keep going the wrong direction. Okay, off the top of my head, I may not know what 3/5 of 10 is, but I know if I had 10 marbles and I divided them into groups of 5, I know that that would be basically like saying 10 divided by 5, which is 2. So I know 1/5 of 10 is equal to 2. Okay, so if I know that, then I need to figure out, okay, what is 3/5 of 10? So I could just take that 2 multiplied by 3, and I'm going to get 6. Okay, so when I go to do my first step up problem, I'm going to want to circle 6 apples. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 3/5 of 10 is 6 because, and then this is the part right here where you're going to want to show your work or your thinking. Okay, go ahead and give it a try.